right? So this is how we can manipulate the display properties. So I didn't have any questions about that specifically. I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with Boolean operators. So, not is an exclamation mark. I'll show you guys the other ones as well. So if I drag in another checkbox here, we also have an OR operator, right? So I can do OR. So OR is the two vertical lines. The way you get it is press Shift and then the backslash, right? That value. And now, even if I press one of them, I need to press both of them for it to activate. And then the other one we have is an AND operator. And so AND is two ampersands. Ampersand is shift 7. And so for that, that's just an AND. And so if we press 1, it should be fine. So I'll just leave this up, and you guys can.
Wait, sorry. I just have a quick question. So why did you have to press both of them when it was OR and only one of them if it's AND?
Because there's a not here, right? So
I see.
you have not and not, right? You could manipulate this to be the other way around, but I just play with the nots instead. You can change it to be the other way around. I think it would be, actually, I don't know. But yeah, the reason you have to press both of them is because it's a not.
Okay.
And the last thing we will do is we'll go over here, and so we did this where we said, sorry, let me just check. We also have this other field where I can hide it when it's true, right? And so it'll hide and show components based on the checkbox now. So before we were disabling and enabling, now we can hide and show as well. So it's the same logic, but now you're able to hide and show. So you have hide when true, and we have disable when true. But that covers most of sort of the basic, characteristics or properties of components in Retool, right? So we have a few more that we'll go into, like things that are more specific to queries. But does anyone have any questions about just some of the stuff we went through here, and just generally about how the Retool interface works? Does anyone have any questions about how to show and hide these as well? Okay, sweet. So we'll go through now and spend the last little bit just building a basic tool. So we'll end up connecting it to a Google Sheet and working through building a tool. And so the tool we're going to build is just going to connect to a Google Sheet. It's very, very simple. And all it'll have is just a bunch of, it's a database of, names, emails, a little bio, and we can have a date of when it was created at. You can imagine like this to be something like a form, right? Where you're building a very custom form, and you're getting, people's information so that, for example, if Krish, you're doing the YC website and you need to ask people for all of their information, you can just send them this retool and all of their information will come instead of messaging them individually. It's the same as building a Google form, but this should give you a basic idea of how to connect different components in Retool. So the way it'll work is, you can create new entries. So I can go Krish Shah, right? I can write Krish, I use computing. Krish is cool. And it should create a new entry in our Google Sheet. And so this is now just a database, right? So you just have a list of names, a list of emails, a list of bios, and when it was created at.
Dhruv, I have a question.
Yes.
What would be the difference? Like, what is the purpose of sending the retool and not just this Google form?
Yeah, so well, in this use case, Google Form would probably be better unless you wanted to use something like, unless you had like a form that was extremely complex. This is just to illustrate the connection between Google Sheets and like I think the best one of the really good examples would be the check-in challenge. I was gonna do something like a check-in for this workshop. We just have a challenge on it, so I can't solve it for you guys. But that check-in app you can't build using a form. Does that make sense? Because you have
Yeah.
to be able to edit the state.
Right.
You have to be able to edit that they're checked in or checked out. Unless
Right.
they refill out the form, you can't do it. And you can't give it to the other person, right? I need to be able to be using it. So like I can't like pretend like imagine if you weren't a part of YC and I wasn't sending you a link, I was filling it out on your behalf, right?
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, sweet. So we'll start by building out the UI. So I'm just gonna go through and delete everything in there, and we'll start from scratch. For some reason, I can't create a new app. Okay, so you should start off with, if you see any queries or anything on your canvas, just delete them all. We'll start from scratch. Actually, the first thing we're gonna need to do is go over to our home. You'll see up here, there's a bunch of tabs. One of them is, yeah, sorry. So here, sorry. So you just click it and then you can click backspace or you can, I think, right click. But if you just go here, you can just click it. If it's selected, it'll be blue, and just click backspace and OK. Did that work? Yeah, sweet. Okay, so you can go back to home, and if you go back to this screen, you can go to our resources. And over here, you can connect the different sort of sources of data. So the one we're working with, if you go into create new, is Google Sheets. So if you go down to APIs, you can go to Google Sheets. And if you just click on it, you can just name this as like, workshop. And you just click connect to Google Sheets. It'll ask you, it needs to authorize. You can just click authorize. Select the account and click allow. And so this should have your Google Sheet connected. You can click test connection just to double check. It'll say connection success, save changes, and you're good to go. So this should work now. You should have a full Google Sheet ready to go. And we can check that in our app as well. So you just go down to YC Workshop here or whatever you named your app, click on edit. And we'll just start by checking if the connection worked, right? So if you just click on new under the queries, you can just under select resource, you can see if there is a Google Sheet, the one that you named. So I have two, but the one that I just made was workshop. So that's an instance of the Google Sheet that we're going to use, or the connection to Google Sheet. We haven't actually selected what sheet we're going to use yet. But everyone just confirm, this is probably the most important. It's like, did this connection work for you?
Yep.
How do you do it again?
People-
Can you say that one more time?
Yeah, sure. I'll go through and do that again. So you just go to resources. So if you go back to home, you'll be on the screen, right? Are you here, Neil?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just go to resources. If you click on create new, and scroll down to APIs. You'll see Google Sheets.
Okay.
And then just name it whatever you need to, like Retool. Right. And make sure this box is enabled because you're going to need to write back. You just have to click connect and it'll ask you if you're going to be authorizing. Just click authorize. Select whichever email you're going to use this for. So for you, if it's your YC email, then use that. Click allow. Make sure that it worked, just click test connection. Should have worked. Just click save changes. And you should be good to go. Did that work?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. So yeah, you can just go back to your app now and just click on edit. And over here, you should be able to see your the one that you just made. Retool shop is the one I just made, or workshop, or yeah. So does everyone see one of these? So,
So
the one that
new,
Retool, sorry?
So you make a new query and then it'll pop up on
just
selected.
make a new query and then under select resource, you should be able to find it. Okay, sweet. Yeah, so Retool also has onboarding resources. So if you want to play around with like a REST API or SQL or their sample Google Sheets, you can as well. We're going to be using our Google Sheets. Okay, so the first thing we just want to do is, we just want to lay out our UI, right? So we know that from earlier, like what I want to do is I want to be able to see all the different data that I have. And so, I just want to be able to see basically a carbon copy of that Google Sheet. I'll just leave this here for now. It'll come with some filler data. I'll ignore that. Actually, I'll just delete it. If you just go into data, you can just delete it all. So just delete it. Don't worry about anything it tells you. And we'll just lay out the different UI components that we have, right? So just drag in a table, then we're gonna drag in a field. So we can go back to our Google Sheet. We know that we have a field for name, email, bio, and when it was created at. So I go back here, I'll just, do a little bit of like, I guess, simple UI work. So if you just drag it to be this big, then it'll be on 2 different lines. So it'll come default like this, but if you want to make it on 2 different lines, just drag it to be more tall, and that should work. So we have name, we have an email field. So under label, you can change this to email. And then we have a bio field. And so this one I'm going to make a little bigger just because it's a bio. So I'll try and make it a bit bigger so you can actually see what it is. So let me make this bio. And we said the last one was we have a date field, right? So the user should just be able to enter what date they made these changes. And so just date. So name, email, bio, created that. Cool. So once everyone's here, oh, and we need a button, of course, to submit. It's a little annoying. And I want to make my table the same in its height. So I'm just going to go do that. Cool. So if anyone's having trouble getting here, let me know. Okay, cool. So I'll keep going. A few things that we want to make sure are that the text inputs are the right type. So for name, text is great. Names are text. There's no numbers in there. For an email, they do have an email option. So we can change this, not range. We can change this to email. And so it'll just sort of force having an email format. For bio, text is fine again. And for created at, I'd like a date. Date time might be too specific. Date is good to me. So you can change it to date, and you'll see it'll actually give a date picker instead of just plain text. And I like this color, so I'm gonna just stick with it. We can change it if we want to. Actually, I will just for fun. So you can make this a custom color if you want. If you guys like this color, it's the code I typed in was 1458EA. Perfect. So from here we can now actually connect to different to our Google Sheet, and then we can write back to it. So the first thing we'll start by is just reading the data and having the table populate from that data. So if you go down here, we've selected our resource. We want to read data from our spreadsheet, right? Because we want to populate this table. For our spreadsheet, we want to choose what sheet we have. So it'll grab all the Google Sheets you have. Just pick the one you need. So emails YC workshop is the one I have. If you don't have, oh wait, I should probably drop this in chat. Sorry, wait. So I'll just give you guys this spreadsheet. So that sheet, just bring that to your own Google Drive or make a copy, or you can just create a new spreadsheet and just type it out like this. All you need are these. All you need is like name, email, bio, created at. You don't need this data. I'll get rid of this data as well. Actually, I'll keep them just so we keep read properly. Okay, so bring this spreadsheet into your Google Drive, or create a spreadsheet on your Google Drive that looks similar. You just need these headings for the main part. Everything else is like, you don't need this stuff. And we can go back and start connecting things up. I'll give you guys a minute because I totally didn't give you guys enough time to create a spreadsheet. Can someone just let me know when they've actually created a spreadsheet, or are you using that one and see it pop up on Retool as well? Is it not working for anyone, or is it working?
Wait, what do you do after you get the shareable link?
Just bring it onto your Google Drive. So the one that you connected to Retool with, just make sure it's in your My Drive or some folder in your My Drive. So this is in My Drive. So just make sure it's there. On Retool. Wait, Satoshi, have you brought it into your Drive?
Yeah, so I created a spreadsheet in my just my drive,
Mm-hmm.
but like in the drop down menu, it's not showing it.
Just try refreshing the Retool page. Just like hit refresh.
Yeah, that worked. Thanks.
Okay, perfect.
I had to restart my query, and it won't give me the select resource thingy. Oh wait, never mind.
Okay. Yeah, so you need to wait. Did you try and like connect it to a component? Don't try and do that yet. You just need to select it from here. So in your dropdown where it says spreadsheet, just select the one you have. Okay, try
For
doing the
mine,
thing spreadsheet. Sorry.
For mine, it also says no data. I refreshed the page and I made a shareable link.
No, but no, don't make a shareable link. Just make sure the spreadsheet is in your Google Drive,
Oh.
like in your My Drive. Like just new or like drag the one, make a copy of it in your drive.
Is it fine if it's in our YC drive or?
Not in a shared drive, like your My Drive
Yeah,
for the
that
YC
works.
account. Yeah, for your YC, like whichever one you're using for Retool. Make sure it's connected to like whatever you signed into Retool with. That email is My Drive. There should be a spreadsheet.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Okay, just for the sake of time, I'm gonna keep going. If anyone's having a lot of trouble, just message the chat or interrupt me. But I'll just keep going with what we're doing. So yeah, you just select the resource you want, and you can just leave everything else blank. We only have one sheet, or you can leave blank to select the first sheet. It's the same thing, and there's nothing else we need to do here. So if you save it, and you can also preview it. So this button will help you preview what it is, so you can see the data that it's getting. So this is the data that Retool is getting from the Google Sheet for me. And if I go to the table 1, just like how I can reference different components, I can also reference different queries. And so I can, for mine, it's called query 2, right? So I can be query2.data, and it'll populate from that sheet now. So it's as simple as that. You just read data from spreadsheet, select your spreadsheet, and you can just do query2.data. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Drew, for mine, it says
Mhm.
cannot read property, and then in comma, in apostrophes, it says 0 of undefined. So, I'm not sure.
Where does it say this?
When I go to run the query.
When you click the preview?
Yeah,
Have you selected the right spreadsheet and stuff?
yeah.
Here, I'd
Okay.
stop my sharing. Let's see what it says.
I'm on my phone right now, so I can't do that.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Does anyone else?
I think.
Oh, we have to share screen. Keep your screen on to see. I think you can share multiple screens at once.
Okay, sure. I'll keep my screen on. This might be an issue with our YC Drive accounts, guys, because I ran into a few issues with it as well, because I'm not an admin. So someone's gonna have to. I think Priyank is the admin, so Priyank might be able to change people to admin.
It worked for me though.
Okay, sweet.
Wait, I'm gonna try something with the presenting thing.
It says save query 1 to see changes for mine, but like I don't get what it means, but oh, there it is. Never mind.
Okay, sweet. Cool. So I think everyone should have gotten to reading the data. Yeah, I'm gonna keep going. We're gonna now add data from this, these sort of fields. We're gonna add data now. So under action type, you'll be able to see all the different things you can do. One of them is append data to your spreadsheet. Append data just means add data to your spreadsheet. So it means it'll sort of like it won't update anything. Like it won't change anything that's already there. It'll just add to whatever's already there. And so that's exactly what we want. We want to create a new entry, right? We want to be able to create a new row. And so, we'll do append data to your spreadsheet. Again, we want to do the same thing. We can select the same spreadsheet we have. And, something like this, you can store into a variable as well, right? Like you can just store into some like drop down where you select the spreadsheet you want, and then it'll just automatically select here. because you can change it to user ID. But for now, we're just going to use the dropdown that Retool gives us. And now, yeah, sorry.
It just pin it to your screen then.
Yeah, you
Okay,
can
this is
print it.
good. Wait, did everyone see what I was doing?
No, I couldn't see it. Could you do it one more time?
Sure. So just create a new query. Make sure the resource is still the same. Change action type to append data. Append data just means we want to add data to our spreadsheet instead of updating or deleting. So that's exactly what we want to do here. We want to create a new row. And make sure you choose the same spreadsheet here as well. So those are 3 dropdowns you need to select from. And now we just have to pick what values we want to append. So something you'll see Retool doing a really good job of for you is it'll tell you how you can write this and like what structure, right? So you'll see over here, it says column 1, new value, right? And so what Retool does is like, it'll look at like, we've gotten a table. And so we just want to give it all the columns from that table. And so we just go over here and make sure all the names are the same, right? So name, email, bio, created at. And I can say, okay, name, and just give it quotes because it's going to expect a string. And you can do this thing with Retool where you just do the double curly braces. And all of a sudden now you can access these variables again. So we know this is text input 1. And so I can just do text input 1.value. And so my name is now always going to be whatever text input 1.value is. So I'm typing in here and I have Dhruv. Right, this will give me name is true. So again, make sure you have these quotes around, otherwise it won't work. It's going to expect a string. But you can do the same thing for all of them, right? You can have email being text input 2 value. Bio text input value. And create that. So you can see this, and we can make sure it works just by clicking preview. And it didn't give us any errors, so it should be good. I'll leave this up for a second just so you guys can see it. Okay, sweet. So just make sure you save this query. And right now this query does nothing, right? Because it's not connected to anything. There's nothing telling this query to actually be executed. Like for example, when we did this one, we told the table that the data is from query 2. Now for query 3, we need to tell the button that when I click you, go and send all this data over to Google Sheets. And query 3 does exactly that, right? It sends all that data to Google Sheets. So if you look at button for on click, just make sure it's selected to run a query, and you can just select whatever query you want. In our case, it's query 3. And so now if I type, whatever I need, right? Email. And select the date. And I click submit. In preview mode, you'll have to select the button and then click again. In regular mode, you don't have to do that, or sorry, in present mode. Right now we're in editing mode. But right here, I just got Dhruv Patel, Drew, and hello world. This was from earlier. So, we have the tool connected. We can do a few more things to sort of make it better, like disabling the button like I had shown earlier. I'll urge you guys to do that. We went through it. Just make sure you get to this. I won't go through the button thing. I just want to show you guys one other data source we can use.
It's not letting me. It's not updating the screen for me or my rows with my data from the little inputs.
Did it say query successful up here when you click button?
When I click the submit button,
Yeah, like make sure you click it twice.
wait. It says email column not found. Oh, that's why.
Yeah, they all have to match up to the Google Sheet. Was anyone able to get it working? Like this connected to Google Sheets?
Yeah, it says query ran successfully, but then it doesn't update to the retool. Like
To
the
the
retool
retool.
table.
Oh, you have to reload it just because we haven't made it automatic. Just there's at the bottom right, you'll see reload table data.
Thanks.
Yep. We can make this automatic. We can just change it to when inputs change. But the main thing I want to make sure you guys have is this connected to Retool. Was anyone not able to do that? Okay, so I think everyone was good. Okay, yeah, I think that's a basic summary of like, you know, being able to create things in Retool. Obviously, internal tools get a lot more complicated than this, but the gist is that like the way you go about any sort of Retool app is, you know, you make your UI by dragging and dropping. You connect your data sources, you write some queries, you write some logic, and you connect it all together. The last thing I want to show you is just you can do the exact same thing we did in Google Sheets, except you could do it with a database as well, like Firebase. And Retool will have very similar processes to doing so, right? So if I have, I have a very like not even an app, just like a connected version to Firebase. But the way it'll work is it's the exact same thing. You go to the thing, you go to you go to your data, your resources, you create a new data source, and you'll have and you can add Firebase as well. So I have one called Firebase test. If I go into here, I've connected to this to this Firebase database, and over here I can see the exact same thing, right? So I selected my resource. I've you know, I want to read and write from Firestore, and I've gotten from my collection of users, I've gotten a specific user. I can see it right here. And so this is very similar to doing that entire process on Google Sheets. And you know, it shouldn't be any different, right? So this entire thing shouldn't be any different than working with Google Sheets. So I urge you guys to try it with Firebase as well. And if you're using Firebase as your database, then Retool should be a great option. Yeah, I think that concludes sort of like the most of the interactive part. I'll go through and I'll just sort of talk a little about like the resources you have. So any of these you know, any of these low code platforms will usually have really good documentation, right? Like that double curly brace thing is you know, that's something that like they'll need to explain to you, or like, you know, being able to access variables by hovering or whatever that is. You'll be able to find all of that on Retool's documentation, right? So I've linked that in the slides as well, and it has all the different components and all of its properties. The other thing I've linked are two other tools. Internal.io is probably the only other one that's really good. It is basically the exact same thing as Retool, where you just, you know, you can build. I guess it looks like a little prettier, but yeah, like it also has sort of the you know, low code tools. So you can try this as well if this is something that interests you. And I think that whatever we did in Retool today should translate over to internal IO as well. Yeah, other than that, I think if you guys don't have any more questions, that's it for Retool. You guys have any questions?